guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Benanin, and for today's video we're going to be reviewing the TATCHA Silk Sunscreen. This is their hydrating mineral shield with niacinamide, hyaluronic acid, and broad spectrum SPF 50. I try to test out most sunscreens on bare skin, also with a moisturizer and then with makeup, showing you clips of me wearing them. So the TATCHA Silk Sunscreen is a mineral sunscreen with an SPF 50 PA of 4+. It includes hyaluronic acid and niacinamide. The regular size bottle is 1.7 ounces, which is about 50 milliliters, and it retails for $60. And then the mini size is 0.5 ounces, which is about 15 milliliters, and that one retails for $25. Honestly, I did not want to buy this sunscreen because $60 is ridiculous to me. I am a student. I don't have money like that to be throwing around, but I do understand that some people do like to splurge on their sunscreens and skincare in general, and TATCHA is a pretty high up their brand. A lot of their products are kind of expensive, so I guess this is sort of expected from them. So the active ingredients in here is zinc oxide 10%. It also has niacinamide, like I said, which is a form of vitamin B3. Hyaluronic acid, which we all know helps to hydrate and kind of plump the skin. Silk extract in here, which is supposed to kind of be like a protective veil, is what they say on their site, that helps with hydration and makes it look like it's kind of a second skin. So it's supposed to have that very silky feel to it. It says it's non-irritating, non-sensitizing, dermatologist tested. They claim on their website that it's cruelty-free, non-comedogenic, and fragrance-free. Right off the bat, let's talk about packaging. The packaging in this product really sucks. Day one, as soon as I pulled it out of the box, it was already peeling up, which is very annoying considering you're spending $60 on this sunscreen, so packaging really shouldn't be an issue, but it was for me. My bottle started peeling off literally day one, and I guess a lot of people have had issues with that. So TATCHA has actually said, when you go on their site and you kind of read down below in some of the comments of people complaining about it, they said that they are going to be relaunching with a new package. I'm assuming the formula will be staying the same, which is why I decided to include it in this video. So when they do relaunch, I'm sure the actual formula will be the same, but keep in mind that if you buy the product right now, it's still available in Sephora's if it's not out of stock. You definitely will probably have issues with that packaging coming off, and it's very annoying. But besides that, let's jump into the actual formula. The formula of it is a very runny cream, very liquidy. As soon as I opened the container, it kind of just started exploding out like a volcano. It just came oozing out, which is very annoying for me because I don't want to waste any bit of product if I'm going to be spending that much money, which I feel like, again, that's another issue with the packaging. The formula is just a little bit too liquidy for that sort of packaging. So it started pouring out the first day. Finally, I got it to sort of calm down, and I noticed that I didn't have an issue with it if I stored it face up. But also I think with the liquidy texture, it kind of makes it harder to measure. If you're using the 2-finger method, it might get a little bit messy, so I would recommend actually measuring it into a teaspoon, and that becomes a little bit less all over the place. I actually didn't mind that it was runny. I think the runny texture made it easier to spread out. It felt very moisturizing on its own. I really don't think you needed anything underneath it, but I did want to test it out with a moisturizer. I just kind of slathered it on. I didn't really put it on in layers or anything. And as you guys will see, it looks like there's little specks, and at first I thought it was pilling up. But then I realized it wasn't the actual sunscreen pilling. It was the packaging material that was coming off onto my hands and going on my face. So it's not the sunscreen that's pilling, it's just I'm getting the residue from the packaging, and it's getting little specks on my face. So that was very annoying, but the actual sunscreen went on fine. Once I was able to brush off kind of those specks, you can see that it just looks like a nice hydrating sunscreen, not too oily, not too greasy. I think the finish is just like a normal finish, and it also didn't feel heavy at all. One thing I will say about the sunscreen though is that with my complexion, I feel like there was a very slight cast, barely there, but depending on the lighting you could kind of see it more. When I was in direct sunlight, there really wasn't a cast at all, but then when I was inside, you could kind of slightly see it on the edges of my face. So I wore it for 2 hours, and I expected to look very greasy, but I actually don't. I do have oily skin, so most of the time I'm very oily in my T-zone, but if you're looking at it, it's really not that bad. There's some slight oils in my T-zone, but everywhere else looks pretty normal. I went ahead and blotted and reapplied, and I think with the reapplication you could see the cast a little bit more. So I probably wouldn't recommend you guys using this as your form of reapplication. I feel like that's the case with most mineral sunscreens. Once you add your second layer on, it starts to show up more with the white cast, but it wasn't even that bad. It was just a very minor cast to it. Besides the residue from the packaging, I think it actually looked really good on my face. The second day I went ahead and wore it without a moisturizer. This is typically how I would wear sunscreens in the summer. Because I have oily skin, I don't like too many layers on, so I want to see if a product works on bare skin. I went ahead and put it on bare skin, and again, it rubbed out very nicely, very silky, very smooth. It doesn't take too much rubbing to get it to settle in. And again, it was really minimal to no cast depending on the lighting that you are looking at it with. So love the way that it wore on bare skin as well. But when I came back 2 hours later, you guys will see that the cast was showing up a little bit more on bare skin even before I reapplied it. So it's like the longer I wore it, the more I saw somewhat of a cast, which that's not the norm. Usually it's like, oh, the longer you wear it, the less of a cast that you see. But for me, I started to see it a little bit more. So I think it held up better when there was a slight moisturizer underneath versus wearing it on bare skin. And then again, I reapplied, and you'll see the cast is showing up a little bit more there. The last day I wore this, I wore it with makeup, and honestly, I think this is the best way to wear the sunscreen. It truly is like a primer. It gives you that nice silky canvas so that when you put makeup on, you're not gonna experience any separation. Everything's just gonna glide on very smoothly. My makeup went on very smoothly, like I said. I didn't have any issues with it. My face looks a little bit lighter than it normally is, and that's because I've obviously gotten a little bit darker this summer with being in the sun, and the tinted moisturizer that I wore isn't really my shade anymore. So it's gonna look like it's not matching my skin, but that's not from the sunscreen. That's just from the makeup that I chose to wear that day. But overall, it felt fine, and it didn't really get greasy or anything over time. So my overall thoughts on the TATCHA sunscreen, I think it is a really good product. For $60 though, I don't know if it's really worth it. I hated the packaging, and I hated that it would put specks on my face. The best way that I found to get around the packaging was to make sure that I'm holding the package with one hand and then applying the sunscreen with the other hand so that I wasn't getting some of that onto my face. And also making sure when I'm storing it sitting straight up. Besides the packaging, the formula is a nice satin finish. It's not too heavy, not too greasy. It really applied very easily. I did find that it worked better with a moisturizer underneath. I don't know why. I feel like the cast wasn't really an issue when I had a moisturizer, but then when I wore it on bare skin, there was slightly more. Overall, I'd say this is definitely created for people with more dry to normal skin types. If you have oily skin like me, it can work. You just may not get like that natural matte finish that you'd prefer. But if you have oily skin and you're like, I just want a natural normal finish, then this could work for you. Would not recommend reapplying with it. It doesn't start to feel heavy or sticky or anything, but it does give more of a cast if you have deeper complexion. This one does not have a fragrance to it, which is great. It didn't irritate or make my skin feel more sensitized, and I didn't experience any extra breakouts with it. So overall, it was pretty decent mineral sunscreen. Honestly, most of the time I've been wearing mineral sunscreens with makeup. If I grab a mineral sunscreen, I'm putting other products on top of it to cover up the cast if there is one. So not a big deal, but I think if you're going to be spending $60 on a sunscreen, it should be perfection. That's just my opinion though. If you have any other sunscreen recommendations, let us know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye!